Hey everybody, Darin here, and thanks for tuning in to episode 229 of The Drop Set. In today's episode, I welcome back Paige Sabedra, IFBB Figure Pro, who was last with us here in late 2021 after turning pro at the USA's. Since then, she's had an extended off-season / growing season and just wrapped up her first competitive year as a pro, doing 3 shows: Pittsburgh, Toronto, and Vancouver. In our conversation here, we go into detail about her off-season and her prep, going into details on her diet, cardio, and supplementation, as well as the feedback she got from judges and her overall experience. It's a good conversation, and I look forward to having her back on again soon. Check the links in the description below for where you can find Paige on social media. Also check out thedropset.com for a full episode archive, and be sure to subscribe to the audio-only podcast on your platform of choice. Whenever I do an interview, it'll be here on YouTube, but the episodes that are just me are audio only because no one wants to stare at just me for 40 minutes. Thanks again for watching. Here is my conversation with IFBB Figure Pro, Paige Sabedra. Paige Sabedra, welcome back to the Drop Set.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. I'm always ready to party.
This is like the returning champion on Jeopardy or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, when was that last time? That was after I got my pro card, huh?
Okay,
2021.
so damn it. We made it into this 8 seconds and you've already asked me a question that I can't answer.
I should have looked too, but
Neither of us did our homework. That's indicative of what a shit show this is going to be, I think.
yeah.
I hope so. It was after you got your pro card, and we kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit. And so now we've got a lot of ground to cover since then. So I don't know when that was, but you got your pro card. Was it 2021?
Yep, it was July 31st, 2021 at USA's.
Okay, so I'm going to pull it out of my butt and say we probably talked September, October 2021, something like that. So it hasn't been quite 2 years, but we've covered some ground since then. So let's start from today. Count us backwards. What was the most recent thing that you've done? I don't mean like breakfast. I mean like show.
Yeah, I figured. Okay, so um yeah, after 2021, took that off season for a full year, and then this was my pro debut year. So I started with the Pittsburgh. That was Mother's Day weekend in May.
Staying close
And
to home.
then yep, that was my hometown. That was my pro debut goal. Like, I just was like, I want to make it to the Pittsburgh stage, which we'll get into it. Not my best look, but that's okay. So then I had Toronto on the list. So Toronto was June 4th. So that was awesome. I drove up there 5 hours easy. And then
Five
for
hours.
my last show, I just wanted to do one more, which was the Vancouver Pro. So that was July 16th. So I am actually almost 4 weeks post show currently.
Cool. All right. And so it's early days, but what's next?
I am now going to be in my off season. Obviously, I'm reversing now, but I have a goal to compete end of next year. So I'm looking at like October, November. So yeah, I got feedback and everything from the judges that we can talk about. And moving forward, I just want to like grow a little bit in those areas that they told me to, and then come back for a second year and see what happens.
Yeah. Cool. Cool. Do you have any particular shows in mind for later in the year?
Yeah, do you know Legion Fort Sports Festival that's out
Yeah.
in Reno, Nevada?
Yeah.
I really like to do that because this year they just added Figure Open. They used to only have Figure Masters. So
Really?
um,
Oh,
I'm hoping that they continue that next year, and I would really like to do that in October.
okay. Cool. Cool. Do you have backups in case they don't? Backup ideas?
Yeah, I honestly I would love to do Romania if I can financially make that work. Romania Pros in November, so that's also like on my mind. Um, And then I think there's also a Daytona Beach Pro show,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they have Figure Open. I know they have Figure Masters. I'm not old enough for that yet, just to be clear.
Rub it in.
But
Shut up.
sorry, I'm not old enough for Masters yet. That's why I keep saying I need an Open Figure Pro show. So if Daytona has that, I think Daytona somewhere in there as well. And then there's also like a Fort Lauderdale show around that time frame too. So one of the two.
So basically, you're not going to get surprised. Like you know the lay of the land. You know what's up.
Yeah, I'm not going to get married to anything just yet, date wise. It's just this would actually be the first time that I ever prepped for a fall show. So that will be new.
Really?
Yeah, I've only done early spring shows.
Huh. Go figure. All
ever.
right. All right. Well, then clearly,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Clearly, this is it's worth trying. So, um,
Yes, I'm really about learning. That's what I love to do with this sport.
yeah. So I got to tell you, I'm a little pissed. Not at you. I am pissed at social media algorithms, and here is why. The social media algorithm has determined that I cannot care about you. Like
I know what you're going through.
it's very funny. Like I will open up Instagram periodically. By periodically, I mean like every 40 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And it pops up, and it's like, for some reason, like you always pop up at the top of my feed. And then as soon as I want to scroll down and read it, the feed refreshes and you're gone. It's like you every time. For some reason, I don't know. It's like, oh, Paige posted something new, and it's gone. Okay, cool. And like your stories get buried way back. And the funny
Yeah.
thing is, then I'm like, well, what's she up to? So I go and I search for your profile and I pull it up, and you would think that would tell the algorithm, like, hey, he wants to see what she's up to. No, every time still, you pop up and then you get refreshed out of there immediately.
I, I don't understand that because I have that with certain people too. It's like when you first freshly add somebody, they're like right at the top.
Yeah,
And then it seems like they slowly like disappear into the abyss with all the other people that were, it's like a Congo, like a, I don't know how to, you know what I'm getting
I
at, but
do. I do. Yeah, yeah. The other thing is, John Dorsey, Goob.
yes.
Yeah, so his is the same. Like I actively seek out his profile constantly. I like his posts constantly. I read his story constantly. None of it ever shows up in my feed. Like the algorithm clearly hates him, and I feel like
Yep.
that's probably been bought by somebody. I don't know. Against him
It
in
could be.
particular, at
We
least.
post a lot. Yeah, I post a lot. So maybe it's just like they're trying to save you from like too much stuff from us. I don't
Right, they're
know.
like, you don't need to see Paige. She spams too much. So yeah,
It's
no,
freaking annoying.
I don't know what it's annoying, but I see that happen, and it kind of dispirits me a little bit. But it also explains, like, well, this is clearly one reason why I suck at social media, because the algorithm probably hates me too. So I'm
Definitely.
rolling with that as my story. I don't know. It's probably not true. So Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
Toronto,
Mhm.
Vancouver.
Yeah.
Let's go through them all. So Pittsburgh was when again?
Mother's Day weekend. So I think May
May.
12th or 13th.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you probably started prep for that, what, mid January ish or thereabouts?
Actually, the week before Christmas.
Oh, geez, man, that's a long prep.
Well, yeah, I had a long off season though.
That's true. That's true. You got up to what scale wise?
The highest this off season was 158, or like the last one. So,
Okay.
and not that that was my heaviest. My heaviest was like 161 before the pro card. So I feel like every off season it's a little less. And I'm 5'3", so I'm a little short. So I just put on muscle, but I maintain, or I put on body fat but maintain shape. So I probably look like I'm really thick, but I'm short.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm assuming you're not really too worried about the number. Like you're aware of it, but it's like it is what it is.
Yeah, I don't get caught up in numbers. I actually hate numbers. So like to me, I'm just like, here, I just give it to my coach. I'm sure you understand as a coach, sometimes you just need it for data. And I've gotten used to just here, coach, like you tell me if it's bad or good.
I mean, that's a lesson that I want more people to take from this, just because it is a data
Yes.
point. And
Yeah.
so, do you ever struggle, like, and then maybe let's go back a handful of years, like when you were newer, did you have like an emotional attachment to that number? Did you give more of a shit about it than you do now, or has it always been just noise, pretty much?
The only noise would be from a coach. Like I literally would just freak out because I'd be like, what if they think I'm like disgusting and like you know what I mean? You know how like sometimes like you're not sure about like hormones and stuff, or maybe you ate something that made you a little bloated that day or something. I didn't really know my body that well. So when I would check in and it would skyrocket, I'd be like, oh no, like they're gonna chew me out. That was what I was scared of.
Have you had coaches chew you out before?
Um, so not my current coach with the scale, but a past coach would just like I feel like he was very just like flat with it, where he'd just be like, what did you eat? You know what I mean? And like I would like, I don't know, like I don't even know how to describe that. Like that like communication sucked. So it was just kind of like,
Yeah.
well, that kind of feel bad, but I don't know how to respond.
Yeah. I mean, I ask that a lot, like, because the way that I respond to check-ins is always through voice notes so people can actually hear what I'm saying. And so I'll be like, "What did you eat?" And they can hear me say it like that, not accusatorily like, "What did you eat, asshole?"
Yes. Pretty
Which
much, yeah, because you wouldn't know what that is, and when you're a new competitor, you're kind of like scared by just a sentence because you perceive it differently than what they might be even wanting to ask.
you can lose a lot of context. Yeah, I did have one guy. I did his check in an hour ago, and he's got North Americans coming up in a couple weeks, and the scale for him jumped up 3.5 pounds in 3 days. And I did ask him, I'm like, "What did you do?"
Yeah,
So
right.
because it's like at that stage, like it matters because we're trying to actually make weight as well. So that's another level of complication.
Yes. So
Yeah.
when it comes to the scale, it's not about the number. It's about making my coach proud. And if it went up and I feel like I did something, then I'm like, that's what made me feel bad.
Yeah, and sometimes it can go up, and things are all good. It's not the only thing you look at.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So 158 was your max, and
Yeah.
then on stage at Pittsburgh was what?
125.
125, 33-pound drop. Cool.
Yes, and it was the same for Toronto.
Okay, and then Vancouver,
Vancouver, I got down to 113.
113. Okay, so the real question there is, why didn't you try for the first two? Like,
Well,
what the
isn't it
fuck?
funny
That's
though?
12 pounds. Did you amputate
Um,
a leg?
no, we just did 2 hours of cardio for a month.
Good God. All right.
Yeah.
Do you think that was a good thing? Was that a better look? I know you I know
Vancouver?
I know you placed better at that show. Do you feel like that was a better look?
Vancouver, yeah, I was really happy with that look. And it just showed that I had to push. Like I had to push for it. You know what I mean? Like I learned so much about my body this prep, and I just learned, yeah, 2 hours of cardio sucks, but look what it did. It made me look awesome. It's just I need more muscle. That's all.
Right. And so you probably talk with a lot of competitors as well, and you'll hear people who have concerns about prepping for a show, and they'll complain about a coach, and they'll be like, "My coach had me do." I hear this all the time. "My coach had me doing 2 hours of cardio." I'm like, "Yeah, sometimes that's necessary.
Yes.
Oftentimes it's
Yeah.
not, but sometimes it is." Um, I would say if you're trying to get ready for your first show and you're a complete and total novice, never done it before, you probably want to do it on less than 2 hours of cardio a day. Like that's something you probably feel like it would be smart to work up to that, and you need to have a reason to do it, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't want to make it sound like sunshine or rainbows, but it was like one of those things that you just had to do it, and then I would tell myself, it's not that I'm a shitty competitor that I can't stick to a diet or something's wrong with me. It's just I might have to do more than some other people, and that's just how the cookie crumbles.
Yeah, I think as soon as the conversation shifted to 2 hours of cardio a day, I think the sunshine and rainbows argument kind of left the chat. So I don't think you have to worry about that.
Well, and my coach let me know that she's done 3 hours before for a prep. So then in my mind, I'm like, here's my coach giving me 2 hours, and she's had preps where she had three, where she did morning, afternoon, and night. And I'm like, suck it up, buttercup.
Yeah, I don't have a schedule that can support that. Like I've got a pretty clear and open schedule. Well, let's be clear. If I had to, I could. I just don't want to.
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
I'd be questioning why, what?
yeah, like for me at that point, it's like, you know what? Just going and learning how to operate a sailboat sounds like a good idea right now. Just something different. 3 hour,
Oh, yeah.
three
And
hours of
like,
cardio gets a middle finger from me.
and that's like the thing I signed up for prep. I knew cardio would get high, and I made sure to be aware that like it is a time sucker. So it
Yeah.
is what it is.
Yeah. So you got to like with your work, did you have to kind of make sure that you had schedule clearance or did you just kind of like fudge it and make it work like whatever it took?
Oh yeah, I made it work. Like I work from home now, and I have my own cycle bike that's literally like right in front of me. And there were a lot of times where I would take an hour lunch break, just kind of sign off and just hurry up over there and like knock out an hour.
Okay, so let detour here real quick. I want to talk about prep a little bit more, but well, this is tangential to that. So I have often recommended to people that they should get a spin bike for home to do their cardio again. Um, from your perspective, having done that, how
Mhm.
dumb is somebody who resists that idea?
Oh my God, like it's a game changer. Like I said, I have 2 hours of cardio. I can't buy time. I can buy a bike right here. So guess what? I'm gonna make that work. And like I said, I know I'm lucky because I work from home and it sure does make prep a lot easier. My kitchen's over here, my bike's over there. Literally, like I just have it set up for what I need to. But I recommend everybody get a bike. It's small, it's good on your knees, it's low impact. It's probably easy to store if you can't have room for. I don't know. Like I know what you mean though. I approve of it.
I mean, I've had some people that are like, yeah, I just don't know if I want to do that. I'm like, I mean, for me, like the idea of doing cardio in the gym now is a foreign concept. Like I used to do that all the time, and now I'm like, why on earth would I do that? Like I finished training, I want to get the hell out of there and eat. Like I don't want
Yeah.
to hammer out more cardio because I have to do it at the gym.
Yeah, I would rather lift at the gym. I would rather do cardio at home and I would rather lift at the gym. You know what I mean? So, and like I've done both where, you go do the cardio, come home, go back to the gym. I don't know. Then you get used to just, can we make it one visit to the gym?
Exactly. And as you said, you can't buy more time, and what you're losing there is commute time.
Yes. Yeah.
And especially like, Pittsburgh, is Pittsburgh bigger than Knoxville? I feel like it probably is a little bit.
I've never been to Knoxville, so I
You,
don't really know,
you
but
have professional sports team. We just have the Vols. So that's kind of how I rank cities. Like how many sports teams do you have? So pretty sure I imagine like your traffic potential is way worse than what we have here. And so it's just like more commute time to the gym. Like, oh sure, let me go and do fasted cardio. Let me come back home. Then let me go train. Let me go back later in the day to do more. It's like just do it at home. Stop.
oh yeah. And I found that, with the world now, gas prices are up. So like that should be another motivation.
Yeah. Yeah. Spin bikes are still affordable.
Yeah, go on Facebook Market. That's where mine's from. It's like brand new. Lady just was like, I don't like how I sit on it, like how it felt. So
And let's be
I think I
clear.
paid $50 for it.
I mean, at any given point in your geographic area, there's probably a hundred spin bikes on Facebook Marketplace. Like
Absolutely.
they're
Good
not
place
hard
to
to
go.
find. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so 158 down to 125 for two shows, 113. That kind of blows my mind a little bit. What was the time gap between Toronto and Vancouver?
Okay, so it was a lot shorter. Pittsburgh to Toronto was 3 weeks, and then Toronto to Vancouver was 5.
5 weeks. So 12 pounds when you're already stage lean
Mhm.
to in 5 weeks. And I guess what you find out there is like, well, apparently I wasn't stage lean in Toronto, like you thought you were, but then Vancouver, it's like okay. And Vancouver, it was what did you finish fifth there?
Yes, out of 7, but
Still,
I got
yeah, I mean that's awesome. So I mean,
yeah, I'm
congrats
happy.
on that. That's cool.
Thanks.
And the picks were great. And I mean, clearly it's like okay. I'm like I felt like that was your best look. I just wasn't sure if that's how you felt about it too, or if you felt too small or anything like that.
I was tied for 4th. I think I should have got 4th. But again, I feel bad saying this, but it's a Canadian show and 4th was a Canadian. Um so
Oh,
and that's fine.
Vancouver, BC, not Vancouver, Washington.
Yes,
So
I
you
went
did
to
you did two Canadian shows.
I did.
Are you
And
gonna
I will
are you gonna defect?
what do you mean?
Are you gonna renounce your American citizenship?
Oh, well, you know what? I love it over there. I love Canada. I won't lie about that one. But if it's expensive though. I would
Is it
definitely
really
move to Canada. It's way more expensive than America, but the
interesting?
shows, like the show, both of them were awesome.
Cool, cool. So okay, and so you said tied for fourth, but the one who took fourth was Canadian.
Yeah, and she definitely wasn't as lean, but she like had more like size next to me.
Hmm.
So again, I think she had more size. I was more conditioned. We tied. One of the judges gave it to her. So that's all.
Flip a coin,
Yeah. And it's
more or
fine.
less.
Like I'm not mad about it. I just know. And then some people thought I was 3rd. Like, so at Vancouver, we were posing for 10 minutes for comparison. Like I have a video and that's what the timestamp said was 10 minutes of posing. It hurt, but they moved me around and like I loved it. But I think I moved around 5 times. They moved me 5 times during that 10 minutes.
Man, man. And 10 minutes. So with a class of 7, they weren't doing call outs. You were all up there the whole time.
Yes, it was just straight. Yep.
Man, oof. That's a
Oh
long
yeah.
time to be up there.
It was, but like I said, like I love that I got moved around. It means they noticed me. So
Yeah.
I looked at it as positive. I wasn't upset about it.
So did you practice your posing enough to where you felt conditioned enough like you could hang for 10 minutes? I mean, clearly that's probably longer than anybody wants to be up there, but you were good with it.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't easy, and I'm so glad that I do practice. Because man, I'm sure everybody knows that competes when you're flexing hard up there. And plus you're just a little nervous. You're like, this is like taxing. Like when I got done, obviously after prejudging, I went back to my Airbnb and I laid down with my feet up, and then I actually have it on right now, but I have this like massage thing. And I put this on my leg and it felt so much better. Like my right leg is my trouble leg. So I put this thing on my IT band, and when I went back for finals, it was back to normal. But yeah, it hurt.
Nice. Man, that's just oh, 10 minutes. That's just a long time. That is just
Hey, well, this can go for anybody, especially when you're doing those bigger shows. But again, that's why you got to practice your posing and build up that endurance, especially the breathing. Because I see a lot of girls that let their gut go, and I mean, men do that too.
mhm.
But I think people often forget about that because yeah, you got to flex the muscles, but you got to keep that core tight.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, was Vancouver always on the agenda from the start of the season? You're always planning to do that the third show?
Um, I wouldn't say that Vancouver was on the list, but when I went into this prep, I had a goal of 3 shows.
Okay.
I wanted to do 3 just because when I was looking at other pros and like just getting some ideas around, it just really seems like as a new pro to get your face out there, 3 seemed like a good number.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So I'm curious. Let's talk a little bit about food, a little bit about diet, and run some numbers here. So, with your coach, do you follow a meal plan or do you go macros?
Meal plan.
Okay, so we're not, and so do you then kind of reverse engineer that so you know roughly what your macros are, or do you just kind of like to be dumb about it and keep your head in the sand?
Okay, so in the off season, she's starting to do that now, but for the longest time, we didn't. She didn't even ever send me calorie count, and I just didn't care. But starting at the end of prep, when we started implementing more of like a keto style, she started doing more of the macros.
Hmm.
So yeah, prep, like we got down to 1,000 calories. It was like 1,012. You know what I mean? Like very low.
Yeah.
Uh, and that was again with the 2 hours of cardio and 1,000 calories. Yeah, that's how we got that conditioned look.
Yeah, and that's what I really want to kind of hammer home here for people is the idea that having a 1,200 calorie or less diet and doing a shit ton of cardio or 2 shit tons of cardio, whatever it happens to be, is not necessarily a problem. It's not always the right solution for everybody, but sometimes it's necessary.
Right, and I'm keto. Everybody was like, "Oh, I get carbs all prep," and I'm like, "Yeah." Started in March. I was on like keto.
Yeah. Okay. So you did make it through, back half of December, January, February. You kept some carbs in for that.
Yeah, and I wasn't losing any weight.
Oh, okay. So that
Yeah, it was bad.
and so for you keto, like what I mean, if you had to guess, I'm assuming it was what, veg only?
Yeah, so we did salmon and chicken thighs, spinach and asparagus. We use a lot of avocado and avocado oil and then whole eggs. And then we were
Okay,
doing
so
almonds
you
for a little
you weren't
while.
doing fake keto where it's all protein and veg and there weren't any fats in there either, because I see a lot of that.
End of prep.
Okay.
And
And
end of
so
prep, we ended up switching out, because chicken breast isn't keto, but at the end we switched like Vancouver, we went back to whitefish and chicken breast. So yeah, then that was just slight keto. That's why even like now, like I'm just on slight keto because chicken breast.
mhm.
Yeah.
So fats came down towards the end of prep too, so you're pretty much just like, largely protein and veg and not a whole lot else.
Yeah. No, it was pretty much just what you said.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
typical just low carb, I guess, no carb.
Yeah.
Like this
Yeah. No,
vegetable.
no carbon reduced fats as well. Just like, okay, here it's, I mean, it's almost like carnivore pretty much at that point.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, like I felt amazing. I know it don't sound like fun, and I know that bodybuilding and keto don't mix. But
They
I
can.
I felt amazing. My skin got better. I have so much energy. I don't know. Like I would have told you a year ago keto stupid, and now I'm like, well, worked for me.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, sometimes you have to keep an open mind about it to try it. I typically it's an option of last resort for me if I'm
Yes.
working with somebody, just because I think most people will fail with it. It's not that it won't work; it's that most people can't do it.
Yeah.
And if you keep an open mind about it, and the thing is also like the way that you approach bodybuilding generally, and just like the way that you throw yourself into it, and the passion that you have for it, you're like it's I imagine, don't let me put words in your mouth, I imagine it's very easy for you to kind of keep an upbeat and positive mindset about whatever's going on.
Yeah, especially after I was seeing results. I'm like, see, like, yeah, you get to be like that. My shit didn't look like fun, right? Like, no one wants to see a bodybuilder eating no carbs. Like, they want to see the fun stuff. And I'm like, what am I gonna do? Sorry that when I'm not like everybody else, but I guess I don't want to be like everybody else either. So
Well, and being lean as hell is kind of fun too. So
yeah,
yeah,
but it was worth it. And even now, we are, as I'm reversing, we started with keto, and now she's just adding a little bit of carb just to see how I feel. We're doing wheat tortillas, so that's going to be low glycemic. So we're doing the tortillas pre and post workout, and then we'll just keep adding like the low glycemic. So brown rice will probably eventually come in. We're just taking a really slow approach to bringing the carbs back. But we had already discussed that later on in this off season, if we ever have to dial back and do a mini cut of any sort, we're going to just do keto.
just jump straight to it. Just
Yep.
cut to the
Mhm.
front of the line and just get on with it.
Yeah, it's just going to be utilized as a good tool for me because we found that it worked for
Hmm.
cutting. So again, like if I need a mini cut in the next year, we'll just implement something like that.
Yeah, I mean, once you find the recipe that works, there's no reason not to go back to that as an option of first resort. Um, and of course, one thing that you've experienced before is that just because something worked before doesn't mean it's always going to work the same way the next time around, too.
Absolutely. And like, I definitely have to have carbs to build muscle and you know what I mean? Like, in the off season. That's why if we use it for a mini cut, it's just a little thing.
Yeah, yeah. So knowing that you got down to 113 and that was the look where you were happy, I mean, you're laughing just hearing that number because it still sounds just fake, doesn't it?
Yeah. I was like, ew.
I mean, the last time you weighed that much, you were probably like 14 or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. It was
yeah.
definitely like early high school.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. So with that being the case then, are you looking at your off season now like 158 would be a problem?
Yeah, but I definitely, just looking at years previously, I know that 150 is where I'm comfortable. Anything over that, I would start to get a little fluffy. Like when I was 158, that was when I got back from the Olympia because I was about to start my prep. And it's like the Olympia, right? So I'm just gonna go have fun with my friends. I didn't eat like an asshole, but like I definitely had food plus the traveling and everything else. So when I did that one last off-season check-in, that's why it landed at 158. So 150 is where I know I'm thick but comfortable.
Okay. I've had those check-ins with clients sometimes where I'm thinking like, okay, we're going to start prep in a couple weeks, and then I get that check-in, I'm like, nope, we're starting it today. Like we we
Yeah.
we got to make a move here. No, this is not good.
I think that depending on the coach and the athlete, I definitely do recommend that if you are someone that just feels like you need like that one last like hurrah before you start prep, like I did, like Olympia was my vacation because that was the end of December. And I knew that when I came back, we were going to start prep and then it's Christmas and I didn't even care about Christmas. Like I had my fun at the Olympia. So that's just how I liked it. Cause then I go into prep and I'm like, you had your fun, bitch. Like it's time to prep.
That's what I say all the time is like, trying to come off a vacation, like especially if it's before a cut and people are like, oh, I'm just going to ease back into it. I'm like, no, like why would you implement half measures at this point? Like, as you said, you had your fun. Now it's go time. Flip the switch and make it a hard cut. Like, forget that old crap. kind of like, you know, the whole idea of like when somebody first starts a plan and they're like, can I get a cheat meal? Like your whole life has been a cheat meal, you know, that thing. It's like,
Oh yeah, and I already went, like, I don't get many cheat meals ever, even in off
I
season.
kind of figured.
I don't get anything, like maybe once a month. And I've just already signed up for that. Like in my head mentally, I'm like, you only get one once a month. And then when it comes prep means just go time. So to me, it's just how I'm able to mentally get into that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so let's talk PEDs a little bit. You said you're
Sure.
up for anything, so let's do it. Um,
Let's do it.
let's go back to off season. Um,
Okay.
what the off season look like for you in terms of supplementation? Like, did you start off with like, I mean, were you trying to go like, I'm running as little as possible, or you're like, fuck it, we've got to grow, let's do it?
Nope. And the thing is I've always struggled with acne. So me and my coach already knew that we could not push it or try too much like we did for the pro card. So I just stuck with generic HGH 2 IUs daily, which is actually what I'm doing again now. So that's all I'm on right now. And so yeah, that was last off season. And I think we did a 10-week cycle of T-Bowl. And I have some friends here in Pittsburgh that are females that also use the same T-Bowl. So I was just kind of going off of what they have, and I got good results. But after a while, it was just like I started getting a little bit of chest acne. So that's when we cut it. Um, and I'm just not a fan of Anavar, to be honest. So that's why we went the T-Bowl route.
It's hard to find real stuff.
It is. It really is, especially when you're acne prone like I am. It's just like it's just really annoying.
Yeah.
And
I'm at the point
uh,
now where I don't even recommend Anavar for women anymore.
yeah, and like I said, unless you know for a fact it's like a pharmacy grade or something, I'm not a fan. And like I said, my other female friends are using T-Bowl, and I'm just like, well, it's fine with them, and they love it. So I just was like, they don't like Anavar either.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's all off
So
season.
yeah, we only did like a 10-week cycle of that. I think we did that 2 times, and that was it.
Cool. Pretty easy peasy. And I mean, that's like running over the course of a year.
Yeah, I mean, I was good with just generic GH and training and food. And that's the thing. I rely on food. So
And that's what you should do, because all of this stuff, whether it's over the counter or whether it's gear, it's all under the umbrella of supplementation, meaning it's supplemental. It doesn't do anything
yeah,
for you if you're not doing all the other stuff. And if you are doing the other stuff, it'll bring those few extra percentage points, but it's not going to make up for anything that you're not already doing.
yeah, no, and I'm pretty strict on my meal plan, and like my coach feeds me well. That's the other thing too. I might not get a lot of cheat meals, but my food will eventually be at a very good place. It's just a lot of clean food
Mm-hmm.
that I like. So to me, that's probably why also I don't care about cheat meals, because all of my meals are really good. My coach doesn't do protein powders. So like I'm not doing like a shake for a meal. I get to eat food. Um,
That's the way to do it, especially when your calories are low.
yeah, like I don't know, it just makes me more satiated. I don't have a lot of cravings because of that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I would take, even if like, because I feel like people do shakes when they're trying to like cut a carb or something in a meal. I don't know, but I know for me, I'd be like, just give me a chicken salad then. Like, why, with, you know what I mean? Just lettuce and chicken, but I don't
And the
want to
thing
do a
is,
shake.
if you take your protein and you prep it well, like you shouldn't need much else with that.
No, like,
Yeah.
and again, I work from home, so I can cook all my stuff fresh anyways. It's not, none of it, it's not like I need a shake because I need it for convenience. I don't have a problem with meal prepping. I'm pretty responsible with taking care of myself.
You kind of have to be at this level, I think.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and you said the GH was generic, nothing fancy, and that was like the whole off
So,
season.
believe me, I wish I could try pharmacy grade, but we all know how expensive that is.
Yeah, yeah, that's a pretty high barrier for entry there.
Yeah.
And so then prep starts. What changes?
We took the GH out, and which would have left me on nothing. So we did a little bit of a cycle of T-ball. And that was before that during that period in March. Like, remember I said I started keto in March?
Hmm.
So T-ball was like right before that. And then we thought maybe that's why I wasn't losing weight. Cut it, nothing happened, and then we did the keto. So the T-Bowl was at the beginning, and then when we took that out, she didn't implement like the anti-estrogens until I think we started just a little bit at 10 weeks out. 8 weeks out is always like probably the goal to add everything else in. So at 10 weeks out, I think that's when we started a little bit of Clen and T3. And I think there was a little bit of Nolvadex at that point too.
Mm-hmm.
But once we got to that 8-week mark, we do Nolvadex, Arimidex, Clen and T3 and Proviron. So then that was the cycle there. And it was at a pretty that like in past preps, it was the same, and obviously they're all different there. But after the Pittsburgh show, it just didn't look as good. And my coach was like, we need to get you a new source. She was like, I don't think that those drugs are good. So, and to me, you know how it goes. I'm like, oh, the person's really nice. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I need to listen to my coach here. So after Pittsburgh, I switched and it made a dramatic difference. So
same stuff, different source.
Yes, same stuff, different source, way better results. Started to look better. And like I said, I only had 3 weeks of that before Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
So then that's why it's good to talk about this, because then Vancouver was like the final form after having it for way over a month. Because you just don't take that stuff and it works like that. Like it
Right.
needs time.
Yeah.
We also upped the dosages after that too. So not only was it better, but we did up it, obviously the most I've ever done. And then there was Winstrol as well. So I had no side effects. I'll flat and say that right now. Even though we upped it, no side effects. And we were prepared for it. She's like, just so you know, we're going to go up. And just know that, let me know if you feel a certain way. Fine.
So interesting that it was an all oral regimen. That's it.
And I do take a liver support and a kidney support for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And so then is the goal in the off season, like, okay, clearly like we don't need that stuff as we're transitioning. So that all goes away. Give the liver a little bit of a break.
Yep. We tapered off. We're smart with it. Tapered off. I've been completely off for like 2 weeks now. And like I said, I started back on the GH right away. And that's injectable, obviously. And I'm not scared of needles at all. So like, to me, I don't care. And like, I know you just said that prep was all orals. If I do anything in my off season, other than I'll probably do T-ball again, but I have some Primo I'd like to use, which is an injectable. So I have to get my blood work done first before we do any of that kind of stuff.
Oh, it's like you're clairvoyant. You read my mind where we're going next. So did you monitor that at all, like in the off season prior or at all during prep, or are you kind of saving it for upcoming here? Because you want to have a chance for your, adaptations from prep to really kind of undo themselves if you want to get a good look at where you're at right now.
Yeah. So I've always had blood work done, but this was my first prep where I got more of an extensive lab done. And it showed way more things that I wish I would have known sooner. Like there were signs of PCOS. So that's probably also part of the carb issue that I was having, because white rice really like inflames me, that we found, but we didn't know, right? It was just like, oh, eat rice because that's bodybuilding. And then keto is very common for PCOS females. So when I responded really well to it, I'm like, well, my blood work shows there's signs of PCOS symptoms. So now that I'm done with my prep, again, I'll get my bloods at the end of the month here. And I would like to dive in a little deeper and see what's going on. Is this like a true like PCOS thing going on, or like where's this stemming from? I'm seeing a lot more girls in our bodybuilding community talk about it. So that's something I also have to dive into and look into. But yeah, I recommend for everybody, especially when you're an enhanced athlete, you should definitely do it before prep and after 100%.
Yeah. Were those markers you were looking at, was that largely from the hormone panel, like your E2, progesterone, LH-FSH?
Yeah, the free test was like on the higher side. And the cortisol was pretty high. So there's a PCOS. There's like 4 different types, and one of them is very like cortisol, like heavy, like obviously stress affects everybody, right?
Hmm.
But like when I get stressed out, it just like inflames me. And like as a bodybuilder, you can't have that. So I did a lot of implementing like meditation and yoga this prep, and that really helped so much. And I know that sounds so wooey, but
It is, but
like
especially if you're talking about something like adrenal PCOS, then yeah, I mean, so much of that. I mean, everything in bodybuilding. I think people really underestimate how much of it starts from here.
yeah.
Like it's yes, it is your blood work, it is your diet, it is your training, but if something's wrong up here, like with the way you mentally approach something, it's like it's a megaphone for any other problems that you have.
Exactly. And we all know how many people in our sport rely on caffeine. You know what I mean? Stimulants that like don't
I don't
help
know
with the
what you're
stress.
talking about.
Hey, listen, I got my coffee right here, man. I
What you don't see is the other one of these that's tapped into an IV vein in my calf right now. So
well, okay, yeah. So I mean, everybody has something, right? But again, with the whole stress thing, I think it's those little things that add up. And I know in prep, it gets higher as you go. And I actually did a really good job with keeping caffeine low in prep. It's now in my off season where I don't binge eat or anything. Like this is like the best off season, like or reverse I'm getting into.
mhm.
But the caffeine sure went up.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's everybody has to pick their vice, right? And so, like for me, like I gave up cocaine last month. Kidding.
You, man.
Right. Like I don't drink anymore. I used to enjoy occasional drink, and I just kind of gave that up. I did have like an ounce of champagne on Friday to celebrate a new song release that came out. So it's got to be a good reason for it, right? Um,
Yeah.
I've kind of largely given up cheat meals at this point as well. Like it's just
Right.
I don't feel like I need it at this point. But caffeine is the mistress I will not break up with.
I relate on that wholeheartedly with you. Like, especially here's the other thing. I was just telling my friend this today because yesterday was her birthday, and she was like, "Oh, I went out to eat and it was like $100 or something." I'm like, "See, honestly, that's why I don't even care about cheat meals anymore because that is so expensive to have someone else cook your food." No, yeah, it's a birthday dinner's different, but like when people are like, "Don't you miss eating out or don't you want this?" I'm like, "I'm totally good with my food here."
I kind of agree. I mean I can't like if me from 8 months ago would be beamed into the future and listen to the me from today talk about this, I'd probably punch myself in the face. Be like, "Who
Yeah.
are you? This is insane." No, but it's like, yeah, I'm pretty good with it, honestly. It just I'm part of it is making sure that your diet's constructed in such a way that it feels sustainable and it's satisfying. And again, going to the mental game, that you don't feel like you're a prisoner to it or a victim of it, because you cannot win with that kind of a mindset.
No, absolutely not. And I think that you have to grow into it too. Like I don't I know what I used to do, you know, with the binge eating and stuff after shows, like, and I see girls do it now, and I try to warn them and I try to say, I've been there, you don't want to do it. But sometimes you just have to let people do it so that they can learn like we did, where you eventually get to that point where you're eh, like, I don't need to be that person. I don't need to like be in a fetal position anymore on the floor like a child. Like you're an adult. You control what goes in your mouth. So cut the shit.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And there's so many things in bodybuilding also where you can tell somebody something all day long, but until they do it themselves, like, how to really fuck yourself up post show, and also like how important it is to practice posing when you're, before you're 1 week out from the show, and you get up there and they have no idea what they're doing, and they look at the photos from the show and they're like, "Oh my God." I'm like, "I told you." Yeah, it's like they've just got
Yeah,
to make those mistakes themselves.
really do. And when I get first time competitors for posing, because I do posing coaching, I do tell the girls, like, if you're new to this, if you can afford it, do a second show because you're gonna find out at that first show you're nervous as shit. And I'm so glad that I'm getting girls that want to pose with me as soon as possible. I'm not really getting too many last minute girls anymore,
That's good.
but I do tell them like we can practice all day long and you will still get up there your first time and forget half of this, and that's okay. Like just I'm like, do a second show if you can do it.
because part of it is like, I had this conversation with my wife last night where, I forget how it came up, but if there's that quote from Mike Tyson, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth. And that first show is getting punched in the mouth. And oftentimes, by the time you realize what's going on, you're off stage and the show's done. And so you need time to like shake it off and go and try it again. And a second show is your opportunity for that, especially while you're already
Oh,
in shape.
great. And like going back to my prep with Pittsburgh, I knew that was probably going to happen. I knew that I was going to get up there at my pro debut and I was going to be nervous as shit because you get more time as a pro, right? To pose on stage. And then on top of that, I'm next to like 4 Olympians. So,
and it's gonna be a bigger crowd probably because it's a pro show.
Absolutely. And plus, my family came, and they haven't seen me on stage in a long time. My coach was there, my friend, you know what I mean? And plus I know everybody in Pittsburgh. So it was just like, and I got last place. So it was just like, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for coming.
Thanks for coming and watching me do it, I guess. But I mean, it's that first show, like, I feel like it's people doing their first show period. Like your first pro show is kind of like that as well. Like you don't go in expecting to win. You go in expecting to get your ass kicked, but do your best.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said too, and like looking at the pictures and where I've come, I look at Pittsburgh and I'm like, I don't regret that at all. Was that good for a pro debut? Absolutely not. But and to be honest, as much as I'm so grateful that I was able to do the Pittsburgh Pro, I've never, even as an amateur, doing like they have an amateur show, never got to step on that stage. So I was really happy to get up there.
Like at the venue, because I'm sure this is a venue you're familiar with, being in your hometown.
Yeah, I've tanned the girls backstage. Like I know inside and out of that show. It's just that I'll be honest, I probably wouldn't want to do it again. I don't think I want to do Pittsburgh again. Like, and I think people don't realize like it's cool to do all that in front of your friends and family when it's local, but I think it adds on pressure. And it was my pro debut.
Yeah, yeah. Better to do your pro debut in like Madagascar or something, maybe.
Yeah, go, and plus you meet people and it's different. And I don't know. I like me going to Canada. I had so much fun. I just I'm a social butterfly, so I made so many friends. It was awesome.
Well, and that's cool. Like what I was saying about the social media thing before, like I didn't know you were doing Toronto until after you did it because Instagram kept hiding your posts from me. And so I saw that. I'm like, Toronto, how fucking cool. What a good idea. Because that's not a terribly long ways away from home for you, but it's far enough. You're across the border. It's a foreign country. It feels like a totally different spot. People are probably speaking French a bunch, so it feels like you're in a fancier place just by default. Like, I mean, that's a cool experience.
Yeah, and I actually got to go to Toronto last year to see the show. So like that was my vacation because June 4th, my birthday is June 3rd, so it was my birthday trip. So and then I got to compete on my birthday, which is cool.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, like I already was familiar with the venue because I went to watch it the year before, and then I got to do the show the next year. And like I said, I think I really did this prep great for learning because the first show was local, second one I drove, third one I flew, and I learned about my body in all 3 situations.
Yeah, because those are all 3 very different situations.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially
So
when Vancouver's on the opposite side.
yeah, I mean that's not a short flight. Lordy. So this is the point now where in post-production, I'm going to do a little fancy editing here, and we're going to bring in some pictures on screen and overlay that. So we're going to do some pictures from your shows here. So we're going to pretend that we're looking at those right now. Yeah, here they are. See the magic of editing. It's wonderful. What kind of feedback did you get from these shows? Let's start with Pittsburgh. What do they tell you?
Just get leaner.
Okay, that's like okay. Next.
Which I knew. I did get feedback from Bill. He's actually one of my favorite judges. Yeah, Bill told me right to my face. He was like, "You have the structure for figure." He just said, he's like, "You're just going to have to put the time in to fill your frame and work on your lower body conditioning." That's what Bill said at Pittsburgh.
So it's kind of nice to not be in that tweener category where people are saying like, well, maybe you should do wellness. It's like, no, figure, like
Yes.
pretty definitive.
He just said, you just got to put the time in. And he was literally like, you, but bigger.
Just inflate yourself, please.
Yes, keep what you have, but be bigger. And I
Yeah.
was totally like, cool, we can do that. That's bodybuilding.
Yeah. Yeah. So then fast forward 3 weeks to Toronto. You come in at the same weight. Were you leaner though?
I was leaner, and I had a different look because remember we added the new supplementation and had a
Hmm.
a little bit of in there. We still kept the low calories. I think I was 1200 at that point. Um, and then I had Tyler Mannion give me feedback right after the show,
Hmm.
and he just said more lower body conditioning. So I'm always going to be one of those females that just the lower body comes in last and just needed a little bit more time. Again, it was only 3 weeks with the new stuff, and we were amping up that cardio to 2 hours. I just needed more time for the lower body, so that's what we did. We had 5 weeks to just keep pushing.
Yeah. So it was really just like conditioning, and you didn't really get too much as far as like size, symmetry. It was more just like conditioning.
Yeah, just conditioning. I need to get more density, obviously. I mean, I've really only been lifting seriously for like 4 years, maybe.
Hmm.
Um, so you know what I mean? Like I have a lot of years to catch up on that. Maybe some of the younger girls coming in that have been doing this since they were like, some girls are like lifting at like 15 now. So like when they're like 20, they're getting into the sport and they look crazy
Yeah.
already. So for me, I'm 31, and I had like half of my 20s was nothing.
Yeah.
So I just have to put the time in, build some more muscle, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Just like get bigger, but I'm still figure, just get bigger.
So that, and to be clear, like if you look at figure at the highest levels, I mean, those women are pretty big. Like they're
They
they're not
are.
shying away from size.
No, and I learned a lot what shows prefer what size.
So
Um,
here's my question. Here's my question. So between Pittsburgh and Toronto, different judges. You're clearly like you came in a little bit leaner. It's not like you put on a lot of size in 3 weeks. In Pittsburgh, they said get bigger. In Toronto, it was just like get leaner, implying like no, your size is fine. Do you think that that is a? And I'm asking you to speculate a little bit here. Do you think that has more to do with a different judging panel or just who was at the show?
who was at the show? Pittsburgh had a lot of big time Olympians because they want to get in front of those were all like the Olympia judges, right? Because Pittsburgh's a big show for everybody because it's the Mannion's show.
Hmm.
So it's got the big deal people. And I tell you what, that being my pro debut too, I was like, man, these girls are like cutthroat for Olympia. A lot of the girls were so serious. I'm sure they're not mean, but they just were so focused where like backstage wasn't really fun. Um, they just, I mean, these girls meant business at the Pittsburgh show.
It was not Party City.
No, and they were huge. There were so many of my friends that were like, I thought that girl was physique. And then they were like, I had no idea figure girls were that big. And I said, yeah. But then Toronto, they were much smaller.
Interesting, interesting. So, okay, okay, cool. And then, so then fast forward 5 weeks, 12 pounds leaner, Jesus, in Vancouver. And feedback there was what?
So I didn't get any feedback from those judges because I actually didn't know any of them. Um, I was like, who are these people? Which is like good because it's
West
different.
Coast judges. Hmm.
Yeah, like I didn't know any of them. Toronto, I did. So I actually reached out to one at Toronto after Vancouver. I sent him pictures from Toronto and Vancouver. And I said, hey, I don't know if like I just asked. I said, can you give me feedback? Because hey, you were at Toronto. Here's Vancouver. What do you see? And I actually have it here too, but he gave me such good detail too. It was Paul Lawson. He's
Hmm.
like on the bro chat with Fuad. And he just said there was no glaring weaknesses. He just said that he just thinks that if I add more lats to match my shoulders, he was really impressed with the shoulders. So let's add a little bit more lat to like kind of balance those two things. And then he goes into telling me about adding density to my hamstrings so that I can get a little more of that like outer quad sweep coming out from the sides if the hamstrings are more defined and again density. And then on top of that, it was just a little more arm development too for the shoulders. I guess my shoulders are so like on my frame pretty big that it's going to make some of the other things look smaller.
Yeah.
So, and my last off season, we were heavily focused on quads. So you know how it is. Every off season's different. So now moving forward, we are going to work super hard on the hamstrings. And then I need to get more interior the front delt, because I built my sides from doing so many lateral raises my last off season.
It's where you got to start.
Yes, and I got to move to the front. We're still going to have a lot of quads and then lats. Yeah, back to that.
Man. Yeah, I'm at the point now in my off season where it's like, okay, we need a little bit more of everything.
Yes.
Like, okay, we can ignore the strengths, which are nothing, and we'll focus on the weaknesses, which is everything. So, and I think I'm kind of kidding, but also I think it's a healthy approach. If you just assume like, yeah, pretty much everything can stand to come up, and it's just where do you need to spend more energy than in other places?
And I would like to point out with that point of mindset too, I think that almost sounds overwhelming to probably most people, especially in the gym. They want to get like fancy with their exercises. And that's when you say you want to work on everything, that means like, don't focus on one little detail. Just go in and lift and grow it all. Like, don't be like, how do I grow this little muscle? How about you just grow the whole shoulder?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, don't try and get too cute. I think there's something to be said for novelty in programming, in that for somebody who is beginner or maybe beginner to intermediate, like they are the last people that need that stuff, but they're the people that can become the most engaged by doing it because they think it's fun. And so I like to plug in some stuff like that, like foo-foo stupid ass exercises that are way more creative than they need to be, just because it's fun for them and it gets them engaged in it. And then as they get to a point where they start to get more and more advanced, the training program becomes more basic, because the basic shit is what works. And they
It
don't
is.
they don't need that shiny object to get them excited about their workouts. They can just be like, oh, okay, cool, a hack squat again for the 500th leg day in a row. All right, cool, let's see if I can do one more rep than I did last week,
Absolutely.
and
And
get
get a
excited about
spotter.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get excited and hopefully you can get a spotter, because I tell you what, there's a huge difference. Look at the pros. A lot of the pros have a personal trainer or a really good friend that's a spotter or something. All of them do for the most part. There might
Or
be a
they're
couple that are by themselves, but they don't need anybody. Those are the people that didn't need anybody.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like you either have a spotter or partner, or you're just a fucking badass. Because that's hard to do. Like I am a lone wolf. Like I do not want to work out with anybody else. I would benefit from it. I know that I would benefit from it, but I don't want to. And so therefore I just have to be mentally tougher than I am by default on any given day. And I have to pick my spots where it's like, okay, nut up, dipshit. Like, this is the set that counts. So put on your big boy pants and do it, and don't puss out.
Yeah, or if you're by yourself, you need to be able to jump off and like do a back off or something. You know what I mean? But new people don't. They're like, "Oh, I'm done. I failed," or "I'm close to it. I'm done." I'm like, "No, like I'm the kind of person where if I'm by myself and I feel like it wasn't enough, I'll just cut it off, or I'll just rep out a few more or whatever it takes."
Yeah, yeah, that's the smart move. So, okay, so I'm excited to in retrospect here. I know that I'm going to have to go back and pick out some pics from your show to put up there, but that'll be cool. So I think the screen is formatted in such a way I think I can get all your quarter turns up there at once. So we'll see how that goes. I wanted to talk briefly before we wrap up about your posing stuff that you're doing as well. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing there.
Yeah, so now that I'm in my off season, something that I've always been wanting to do is a posing clinic, because I'm now at the point, I got the pro debut out of the way. I feel as a posing coach, I've already been doing it for a couple years now, but now I really feel like, okay, I know my shit. And I wanted to do a posing clinic because the crazy thing is I'm in Pittsburgh and we have the IFBB headquarters and we don't have anything for posing stuff. There's nothing. And
Really?
nothing happened this year. Nothing. Last year some other coach put something on, and then the year prior a different coach put something on. So there was at least something once a year. But then they never continued, right? So I'm so tired of this. Like there was only one a year and now there's nothing. And even that was just like whatever. And I usually have to travel for some of the other posing ones. Like I really like the one that they have in Virginia and Ashburn every year. They have one that's huge. And like while mine's not going to be like that, but
Don't
I'm
say
just
that. That's negative mindset
I
right
know
there.
I'm trying though, because it is very overwhelming to do something by yourself. But I have a couple of local girls that are just like, we really need this. And I'm like, okay, well, someone kind of help me at least get this like started. My gym is like super into the idea, and it also helps them get some business too. So yeah, I'm gonna have a posing clinic. Yay. So I'm gonna do that for the fall shows. I'm hoping I can squeak it in for a couple of the girls doing some of the last few shows of the year. And then I would love if it's a success, which I think it will be. I will make sure that one happens in the spring for like obviously before Pittsburgh and stuff.
Cool. Cool. So are you doing anything? So the clinic is there. Are you doing any kind of individual work with anybody? Is that something that you're thinking about doing as well, or?
Yeah, I've been doing posing coaching. I have a few clients now, and I do OCB and NPC for figure and bikini. And yeah, I've got multiple clients that I see now, and I do both in person and FaceTime.
Cool. Cool. I mean it's been long enough. I've actually forgotten this, but you started in bikini, right?
Yeah, back in my first show was 2016. I did a bikini show, and that was just me dipping my toe in the water.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, 2017, I switched to NPC. So that was my first bikini NPC show. And then after that, I went right into figure.
Okay, so two shows for bikini. So it's not totally foreign. You got to dust off some of those moves, I imagine, for yourself, but not totally
No,
foreign or anything.
no, and I actually implement bikini poses in my pro individual routine.
Which is smart because if you just stick with like the static figure poses, it's just so lacking in dynamism. Like there's just a lot missing from it. And if you can put yourself into that character of bikini competitor, but with a figure physique, then I think that's a good fit. And most people can pull that off pretty well.
Yeah, and I notice a lot of girls try to do more of like the lat spread stuff, like physique. But
Hmm.
I know a lot of judges don't really like that. Like girls are going to do it anyways. It's so popular for the girls to do like the Wonder Woman pose. But I like to be different and do a bikini or wellness look. Plus, it looks more sassy, and I'm definitely a sassy kind of girl. So it's a little bit more playful than the lat spread, which is more powerful. Where I'm more of like a, hey.
Yeah, yeah,
So
no, I,
I like
I,
my bikini poses.
cool, cool, cool. And so, you don't have a date set for that fall clinic yet?
Oh, yes, it's going to be October 1st.
October 1st in Pittsburgh. And what's the venue?
It's at Life Force Fitness Center.
All right, cool. Mark your calendars, everybody.
Yes, come out to Pittsburgh. It's a fun time. And obviously, it's just going to be me and a couple girls. But I have somebody who's interested in coming in now to do wellness. So I haven't updated my poster yet, but we are going to get someone to do wellness as well.
Nice, nice. All right, cool. You have anything else you want to toss out for the audience today?
Listen, I do off-season vlogs. Well, I did prep too, if anybody wants to follow the prep that I had. So my YouTube is just Paige Sabedra, but I do have vlogs and other content on my YouTube channel. I'm heavily on Instagram. I'm always posting stuff. I don't shut up, so come have a look. And like I said, I do posing coaching, so I also do that. And I just want to give a huge thank you to my coach, Cami Leal. I've been with her for 5 years, so my coach means the world to me, and she's done so much. And yeah, like we just have a good thing going here.
There's
So
something to
I
be said for
couldn't.
continuity, right?
Oh yes, it's consistent. You don't fix what's not broken, and like I know so many people too that are always like, don't you want like a coach that works with other pros? Don't you want to like learn from someone else? Um, and I'm like, no, like I have a good communication with my coach. She knows my body. We've been doing this for 5 years. She comes to my shows. She like, we just have something really good going here. And I just feel like I don't need to move. There's nothing to move on to. And I don't think you need to have a big fancy coach. I think it's plus, like I said, like I'm like her, I'm her only pro. So I'm like, why would I get so much attention? Why would I want to go to some big team where I'm like, I could be in a pro show and have to be against like 3 other girls with the same coach. Like, I'm all right.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, there's something to be said also for just having a coach that you vibe with, um, and like you have a good rapport with. I think that matters a lot, and somebody that kind of inspires you to want to do your best work. You're always doing it for yourself, but if you've got that kind of a relationship with your coach, where kind of like giving them what they expect to see makes you push 3 or 4% harder, like that counts for a lot.
Oh, and also, you should also look at people that were with their coach as an amateur turned pro and still are with them and still have the success. Because it's not like I went to my coach as a pro. My coach turned me pro and then went further to our pro debut.
That's a good point. And I also say when you're looking for a coach, look at their clients, but differentiate between clients that they work with online versus in person, because most coaches do both. And oftentimes there's a huge gap in results between those two categories of people, because they're really set up to train in person. But when it comes to working online with somebody, they just don't have the systems in place, they don't have the communication in place, and it's not there.
Yeah, my coach is like you. She's just at home and only does online.
Hermit for life. That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Except she's not like me, because she went to your show, and I'm assuming she does not live in Pittsburgh.
No. She's in Louisiana right now.
See, that's a big trek. So I was at the Knox Classic this last weekend, which I never go to shows because I'm not a social creature.
I listen to your podcast. I like the Facebook Messenger rant.
Oh man, jeez, don't get me started on that crap. But like, I went to the show and I had Kurt and Randy, my 2 clients who were at the show. Like, Randy flew in from Washington State to do this show, and Kurt drove from Nashville, father and son.
Okay.
They wanted to do the same show, and they're like, hey, let's do it in Knoxville because that's where Darin is and he can come to the show. And my initial reaction was, oh man, that means I'm going to have to go to that show. Oh, shit. But,
yeah.
So that's like my internal monologue that I don't say out loud, but I just said it out loud here. But like, it was a good experience. I liked it. I do not like hanging out in crowds, but it was great to actually meet a couple of guys that I've been working with. And I helped them prep for a show together back in 2016 as well. And then they disappeared for 6.5 years. And then we came back and did it all again, but local to me this time. So that was cool. Yeah. All right. Well, I got nothing else. So we're going to wrap this up.
We talk
but
all day.
I am going
to do another one sometime.
Yeah, we are. I'm going to keep you online after I say goodbye to everybody else, and we're going to do the secret handshake thing off the air. So for right now, I will say thank you. Stick around. But to everybody else, this has been episode, I think 229. So thank you, Paige.
666. Yeah, you're welcome.
Don't curse it. Don't curse it. Okay, so we'll be offline. I'll be back at some point. There's going to be more interviews coming. I'm lining them up. I'm trying to at the very least, so be patient with me.